Senator Roba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to rise to support this report. However, Mr. Speaker, how can I support a report that does not recognize me as a woman? The National Dialogue Committee was there to facilitate dialogue between Kenyans, two different parties of Kenyans. Are we trying to say that each and every single matter that touches on representation and empowerment of women, which is in this report, we are being told go back, sit, drink tea, and then come back? Mr. Speaker, the issue on the two-third gender rule, we have been joking around with this. I hear my colleagues talking about the cost of living. Is it only men who are affected by the cost of living? When we had demonstrations in the streets, when ODM went to the streets and said we are going to demonstrate until we have a national dialogue between whoever needs to talk, was ODM telling us that that dialogue was only for men? Because on the issues that touch on women, they have chosen these committee members who maybe might have worked very hard. I don't know. Because for me, I cannot read anything else, Mr. Speaker, when the first thing that is highlighted is that on the issue of the two-third gender rule, we are not going to discuss it. They should go, and then we come back. Order,
Senator Sifuna?
So, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 105 on responsibility for statements of fact, it is not fact that it is ODM that went to the streets. Kenyans went to the streets to demand this dialogue. Number two, we are debating a report of a bipartisan process. Bipartisan, I don't know how I can say it in Ekegusi. Bipartisan means the team that sat to discuss and come up with the report was not only composed of members of ODM. In fact, other than Senator Okongo Mogeni, there was no other member of ODM on that committee. It was a bipartisan committee that had members of Azimio and members of Kenya Kwanza. Most importantly, your colleagues seated on your side. So when you speak to this report, please understand that it is a product of bipartisanship. I have said, or we have said, the things we proposed, the things we got, the things we did not get. What you should be telling us, what did your representatives on the committee submit in respect of the women issues you want that you did not get? Please spare us.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Sifuna is trying to teach me English, and he does not know that I scored very highly. Bipartisan, Mr. Speaker, bipartisan, Mr. Speaker, I am here representing women. And I am trying to tell my fellow colleagues that this report does not reflect on the inclusion of women in each and every conversation. So if he's talking about political bipartisan...
Senator Sifuna, you're out of order, please.
Mr. Speaker, protect me and my time. If he wants to talk about political bipartisan things, we are standing here representing women. How can I endorse a report, Mr. Speaker, that clearly outlines whether by both ODM or Kenya Kwanza? We are debating on the report, Mr. Speaker. I am giving my views on the report and whether I would like to support it or not. And I am saying that I do not support this report because I cannot ignore the fact that on all the matters that women of Kenya, the same women who went out to the streets, those Kenyan women went out and said they want to be represented. Mr. Speaker, we are being told in this report that, okay, go and sit for an extra 6 months and then you will come back, and maybe at that point we will include the legislative proposals, which, by the way, Mr. Speaker, because I have read that report, they already have the answers on how to implement the two-third gender rule. As a matter of fact, in this report, they have pointed out that there is option A, where we can do ABCD, and there is option B, where we can do ABCD. However, we are sending you women to go and sit for another 6 months so that you can discuss and then come with a separate report to bring to Parliament. Why, Mr. Speaker? When we have an opportunity, women have been put on the table on this National Dialogue Committee. Why would you remove us and our issues and tell us go back and come back with a separate report? Because that is what the recommendations of the NADCO report are stating, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, I would love to support all the things that have been put in there. However, Mr. Speaker, I recognize the fact that I am in this Senate and in this Parliament because I have been nominated to represent women. And this report does not reflect on the same, Mr. Speaker. So I would like to say that unless you're trying to tell us, Senator Sifuna, that women are not part of the cost of living, unless you're trying to tell us, fellow colleagues, that women are not affected by all these other issues, including the political party issues, the IEBC issues, I cannot support or endorse a report that actually sets us aside and tells us, go and drink tea, then come back with your own report on how we are going to implement the two-third gender rule. Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that this report, Mr. Speaker, for it to make sense to us women, and bipartisan women, both from the Kenya Kwanza and ODM, this report must state that these two options are the options that should be considered and should be put in the legislative agenda so that we can move forward. But do not send us out there to drink tea and tell us to come with a separate report. No, I do not, and I will never, until you allow us to sit on the table. We will bring our table or we will say no to whatever it is that you want us to implement, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, I don't support.
Senator